again at the Midas Studio. Follow the Money Investor Group live. We've got a lot going on. My name is Brandon. We've got Karl in front of us here as well, and we've got a few people on the show today.
Show 2 is here. Yeah, we've got a jam-packed show.
Yeah, we got John O'Barrick from Sparta Capital.
Yep.
We've got Melinda Rombouts from Evenco. That was a really interesting one, so we'll be playing that as well. We have John Patrick Holstein from BMR.
Killed it.
We're going back into Garibaldi. We're going back into Canada Cobalt Works.
Yep.
That's a longer clip because he had a lot to talk about.
Oh yeah,
so
he
stay tuned for that.
Yep.
And then the one that we are, and usually we talk a little bit here, but we already have our first guest up on Skype, and that is Sean Dollinger, co-founder and CEO of Namaste.
Hey, Sean.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for coming on the show. I was saying earlier, I know that you've got a meeting or a conference that you're talking to in like 3 hours, so thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, no guys, thank you very much for having us.
Absolutely. So what we want to talk about, we're definitely going to be talking about Namaste. That's why we've got you on here. But I'd also want to ask you, look what's happened in cannabis in the last week or 2 weeks. Is cannabis back?
Unbelievable. As soon as that $5 billion investment came in, history repeats itself, right? We saw Constellation come in right around Christmas. Christmas isn't normally a time when stocks go, and we saw them come in with $3 billion, and look what happened. There was about a couple-week delay last time, and here, as soon as you saw that $5 billion, and we're off to the races.
Yeah, that was definitely a sector catalyst, that's for sure.
And it's been amazing ever since. It was going, and it was nice to see. The first couple of days you saw these huge rips in share prices, and you think, okay, we've seen this before. Since almost January, you see massive pullbacks come from that. But since then, it's been coming back, but some of these days, most of these are starting to end green still. Like there's a lot of volume coming in. That's why I asked that question, is cannabis back? And I think it is.
Yeah, money follows money, right? So that $5 billion cash investment, and again, a lot of people are saying $5 billion. That people didn't realize that it was at almost a 40% premium to where Canopy was actually trading at that moment in time. So, that's $5 billion from Constellation. How many other companies are there like that? How many mutual funds with trillions of dollars invested out there haven't even began investing in the cannabis space? And I think that's what you get, everybody, and then your investors and listeners and everybody who's tuning in get really excited.
No, exactly. And of one of those companies, clearly, Namaste has been seeing it as well. You've had a lot of volume on your stock. I think your stock is actually some of the best volume on of the sector. What's going on at Namaste now, and what are you excited about coming up to October 17th?
So I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but this is the first publicly traded company that I've been involved in. And we started 2 years ago, March 2016. At 6 cents, and we went as high as $4.40. And one thing that I've learned, we're not going to be able to control share. People who invest in investor relations and these different things, you might get a pop here and there, but stocks always go where they're valued at and where they should be valued. So some companies go down, some companies go up. What we've decided to do at Namaste, and in my 18 years plus as commerce, our heads down, right? Work, and at the end of the day, we need to have a real business, and that's what's going to be important at the end of the day. If the share price is at $4 today, $10, if you don't have a real business, who cares, right? And that's really what we're focused on. And I think from the last couple of weeks, the amount of supply agreements that we've announced and everything else that's going on, we're your everything cannabis store. So for your viewers or even, a lot of people say, oh, Namaste is a vaporizer company. We're so much more than a vaporizer company. We're your everything cannabis store, whether you want cannabis, CBD, vaporizers, anything. And one thing I want to point out, a company like Tilray, who yesterday came out with a $9 million quarter and now are valued at over $5 billion, Namaste very quietly has some of the top revenue in the entire space. By December of this year, we'll have a run rate of $4 million a month. That puts us at $12 million a quarter, exactly the same as Tilray. Tilray is valued at $6 billion, Namaste is valued at $500 million, and we haven't even began selling cannabis yet. wait till we start selling cannabis and wait till you see where our numbers go.
Yeah, very interesting there. And when it comes to selling cannabis, just a quick question for yourself. I know you're going to be selling for a lot of LPs and things like that. Do you guys have certain margins that you're looking for, or certain amount of revenues you're going to be looking for from selling cannabis from LPs?
Yeah, so great question. We're looking at about a 50% gross margin. So it's really similar to what we're doing on our vaporizers. Vaporizers do competitors and competition come in at around 40% gross. But on a consumable product like cannabis, where there's going to be MAP pricing, which we're really working hard with different licensed producers. And again, MAP pricing is the recommended suggested retail price, right? We want to make sure that if a product like Aurora's is selling at $10 on the shelf somewhere, that the next shelf isn't selling it at $8. We want there to be consistency in the market, and really when you get a consumer to purchase from you, it should be based on what type of amazing customer service you could offer, what kind of experience, what kind of advertising can you do. It shouldn't be driven by being able to offer the lowest prices out there.
Right. No. Sean, can you give us maybe an update on the CanMart situation? Because I know there's I follow a lot of companies, and there seems to be delays with Health Canada. Nobody really knows what's going on. Where are we at with that?
So Health Canada, the reason why I imagine you don't hear much, they ask you to not really come out and publicize any of it. So to stay on side, I'll tell you what we've announced up to this point. So Namaste, and you pointed out with CanMart, we're really going for the sales-only license. So just so you know, a licensed producer normally has two parts to their license, right? A production license, and then once they have their product, how do they go about selling that product? That's via a sales license. So with the sales license, there's a few steps obviously required. They need to make sure that when you get the product, that you know how to handle it, that you're meeting all the guidelines and regulation, and then at that point they'll go ahead and approve you. So we're at the point where they've actually come on site again to look at all of our videos, look at the products that we received. So we received a large shipment from Supreme, which is Fire, F-I-R-E, and they made sure that we knew exactly what we were doing, packaging it, because it's all shipped in bulk. It's not shipped as a finished product, and that's one of the biggest challenges right now, and it'll be interesting to see how it's rolled out across the provinces, because companies like the Liquor Commission, and I can't imagine them taking a bulk shipment, putting it in baggies or putting it in packaging and then distributing it. You know, they're used to getting a finished product, which is what Namaste thrives at. So we're hoping there's a bit of a shift in the regulations here in the next couple months. But for the moment in time, they need to make sure you know how to handle this product, and then only then will they give you the sales license. So we're at the stage now where literally any Friday, we could get that sales license. We've checked off all the boxes. We got the feedback from Health Canada. Health Canada has taken a look at it. And now we're in this hold pattern, just waiting for the sign off and for them to hopefully put it on their website saying Namaste is open for business, or I should say CanMart's open for business.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of speculators and investors that can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Sean, I have one more question for you. What can you tell us about the cannabis tracking system? So the government is going to implement a tracking system to track everything from seed to sale. Do you know much about that at all?
So we don't know much about their specific one. We teamed up with a company out of Australia, which is a fantastic company called YPB. And basically they have all QR tracking, and where we've implemented it globally is through, believe it or not, there's fake vaporizers. So we need to make sure that our customers around the world are getting the real thing. This could be applied to cannabis as well. If a company or an LP or a dispensary is only supposed to be selling product that remains in Canada to Canadian residents, but then through YPB technology packages going across the border into the US, companies aren't doing justice to the Canadian regulatory body by allowing that to happen. So with YPB and our own technology, we're the ones who are trying to roll out a strategy for the governments across Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we brought it up, actually, is that, you know, that's the biggest question right now. What are they going to do? And you brought up another really interesting point that, funny enough, I never even thought of. When you're talking about the OCS and they're getting these massive shipments, because all these different stores and retail stores, it sounds like they're going to have to go through the OCS. So if they get these massive shipments, do they also have factories that are going to be able to put it into their different containers and actually ship it out? You know, I don't know if they thought of that, or maybe that's why they push it to April. They're like, wait a second, we can't do this. So it's very interesting that you brought that up, because I don't know how they're going to do it.
And it's great. Like I've sat in with a couple of them, and not to name any on the show, but you know, I'm showing them what we're doing, and everybody's blown away. Even one of the largest companies in Canada was blown away. We went to their corporate offices, presented. Their systems are so antique and so old, they can't even adapt, and they're so worried about consumer protection and all of these different things on their system that they can't even implement our technology. So even though they're saying April, that might be aggressive.
You mentioned Australia. Your vape sales there are really strong, right? How big is that market?
So there's a market that isn't even rolled out legalization. They're just starting on the medical side. Namaste controls 90% of site traffic in Australia as far as cannabis goes, and using different devices. And the way we've positioned ourselves globally is we're using Canada, which it's unbelievable that we're at the forefront here of the entire space. Hands down, the most exciting time in any history I'm sure any of us could remember. And building out this framework that we could then apply around the globe. So we'll be able to take the technology, take the e-commerce platforms we're building, and go ahead and overlap it in each country that legalizes.
Nice.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And it's amazing as this space keeps growing, and as this space we're going into all these other countries now, it's getting harder and harder to find out what companies actually understand it, what companies are actually prepared for it. And when you look at Namaste, you know, you guys have a lot of different aspects going on for you. How do you manage that many channels and that many things so that you can ensure successful integration of your online platform, going abroad, and everything else that you're doing?
Great question. And just the other day, it kind of hit me. Don't have FOMO in this business, you know, fear of missing out. I think that's where a lot of companies struggle, and then they cut themselves too thin, and then all of a sudden their core business is weak. So what I thought to myself the other day is, man, there's so many opportunities. They all are so exciting all around the world, but we need to really take a breath, appreciate what we've developed, and really focus on how does that opportunity benefit our company globally. So one thing that I've realized, and I'm sure you have as well, if we wait for doctors and researchers and to get these results out there back to know if there's health benefit, we're going to be waiting here, right? It doesn't take a couple of months to be ready. With Namaste's platform and with us having 1.5 million customers around the world. So to give you again, bring it into a comparable, Canopy has 150,000 customers. Namaste has 10 times the amount of customers globally. Yeah. In Canada, our users are now well over 12,000 medical users using our software on our platforms, etc. We're building the largest peer-to-peer platform. So just imagine you're shopping now for cannabis, and you're not shopping any longer by price point or organic, non-organic, or delivery times. But I woke up this morning with a bit of a headache. What strain of product helped me get, what strain could help me get better? Mm-hmm. And basically with our platform, with the amount of customers we have, with the wearable technology we've developed, all of this information through our AI and machine learning engine then benefits that platform. So when looking at opportunities globally, when we're looking to expand, we still need to look at this core e-commerce model that we've built, and how do we go about developing it and making it better and better.
Yeah, that is huge.
And that's a great point, actually, because I was just looking into our chat room, actually. We have a cannabis chat room where everyone's talking about the live. One of the questions that they had asked was, you know, what Namaste is doing, getting on your medical patients, just like you said, growing your database, with all these LPs really putting a lot of time into getting medical patients, with probably the hopes of wanting to change them into recreational patients later. Do you still find that you guys have a competitive advantage in that nature? And are you still, you know, a unique aspect where, like you said, you're tenfold other LPs? Do you believe you're still unique, and do you believe you can still grow at the same pace?
We've proven we're the #1 company as far as e-commerce goes in the entire space. We started with vaporizers. There's tons of competition globally. There's vaporizer stores on every corner. How does market share? How does Namaste have the majority of market share globally? How have we expanded at the rate we have? When it comes to cannabis, we know we're the leader in Canada as far as e-commerce goes. We've taken Namaste MD, the first telemedicine app ever launched for cannabis, in the Apple Play Store and the Google Play Store. As well, we took the #3 spot just recently across Canada, where we've beat out Leafly, which Leafly's been around a lot longer than us on the application side of it. We continuously proved that we could be the dominant player in the e-com. So right now, we know what the medical framework looks like as far as e-commerce. Our job at Namaste, for our shareholders, investors, and for our whole team, is to make sure we understand those rules and regulations inside and out. And we believe by focusing on medical at this present moment in time, it gives us the competitive advantage, and it allows us to remove borders across Canada. So even, let's take a product like wine. I'm here speaking to you in Whistler today, right? And I went over to the farmer's market the other day, and there was some fantastic wine. How am I getting you that wine in Toronto? Let's say I call you and tell you I had the most unbelievable wine, and this is a product that's been around, you know, for hundreds of years, but let's say from a regulatory standpoint, 100 years. How do I go about getting you that product legally in Toronto? Right now, there's no legal way of shipping alcohol across a provincial border.
Yeah.
And that hasn't changed in decades. We believe with the medical platform we've built, giving free medical prescriptions to whoever is in need, we could then ship product. If I find a fantastic strain here in BC and you're sitting in Ontario, I could ship that to you next day delivery. What do you have to lose by going the medical route versus direct route?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and that's a great answer, and I hope, I'm trying to think, I couldn't see what name was there that asked that, but I appreciate that very much. One more question for you. This is one that, you know, a lot of people are talking about, the NASDAQ. Are you able to talk on that any further than you already have? And are you guys looking at making that listing, obviously in the very near future?
Well, OTCQB is where we trade in the US right now. OTCX, I believe, is the big market in the US. And I saw that Fire Supreme announced that this morning, and their stock was up huge. Namaste obviously qualifies for the OTCQX. We qualify for the NASDAQ. We've been approved. We can move up there at any point in time. I made a promise, and I don't know if you guys are aware, and I'd love to have you guys over to the party September 12th in Montreal, but we had this pledge party where we came out, and when stocks were being shorted in the space, I have 20 million shares of Namaste. Corey has about 7 million, who co-founded the company. We came on, and even though we were completely freely trading, we said, we're not going to sell a single one of our shares, that we're committing for the next 90 days. And that doesn't mean after 90 days that we were going to go ahead and sell them, but for 90 days we weren't. We had over 150 million shares, over 50% of our float pledged to not be sold. And we saw a foundation come into our stock. And September 12th in Montreal with special artists, we're having a big party for all of our shareholders and back to the NASDAQ question, the reason why I went there is we made a similar promise. People were excited about the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ has a bit of a funny rule there. Like, even if you're a $5 billion market cap company, or let's say you're a $2 billion market cap company, and you have 1 billion shares, which we don't, we have 270 million shares, and that means your share price is $1, even though you're a $2 billion company, they're not okay with that $1 share price. They have a minimum requirement of $3 US.
Yeah.
At today's prices, at $3.95 Canadian. So Namaste at that point was trading at about $1.35. So some of our shareholders and investors were worried about a 3-to-1 consolidation or a 4-to-1 consolidation to be able to move up to the NASDAQ. We came out about 30 days ago to make a promise to settle everybody's nerves. They saw we already did it once. We went ahead and did it a second time, saying we won't sell. Our sales license is right around the corner, and I'm hoping that gets us where we need, and then absolutely we'll move up to the NASDAQ and be, I believe, only the 3rd company to do so in the entire cannabis space. I think that would be amazing for all of our shareholders, investors, and potential shareholders in the future.
No, I appreciate it. And actually, that question was on our FTMIG live, our Facebook page. And the next question was talking about the reverse split. So you answered both there. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Well, hey, Sean, you know, I know you're very busy. You've got another speech to get ready for. I appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a blast, and let's do this again sometime in the near future.
Yeah, thanks guys for the support. Great job on the show. It looks fantastic, and anytime you guys want to have us, we'll be glad to come on. So thanks for supporting Namaste. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you September 12th in Montreal.
All right, Sean,
absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Namaste, guys.
That was great, man. It was great. I mean,
wow.
He answered. There were some harder questions in there because we had people.
Brandon with the tough questions.
Yeah.
And you guys, I love it.
You know what? There were people in our Facebook group, in our Facebook Live chat room as well, our Discords, and they were firing off for questions for him. And you know what? That's what I personally look for when you're able to talk to, whether it's an IR or a CEO. You should be able to ask harder questions.
Yeah.
They might tell you, I can't answer that right now, especially if you're in a blackout period.
Yeah.
But to get answers on certain things, I hope that everyone who was watching, if those were your questions, I hope he answered them to your liking.
Yep.
And no, Sean's a very, very vocal guy. I'm sure we'll have him on again.
Yep.
Maybe we'll get Corey on here, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, we'll get Corey on there.
I believe so.
We did great. There was a couple of questions I got from private messages. I was able to ask the cannabis tracking system for our friend Tyler there. Hooked you up.
Yeah, Tyler, he's always paying attention to that because he wants to know what's going on with that. So. Now, we're going to talk about this in a moment because we're going to go back to cannabis in just a moment, but we have a clip from John O'Barrick. John O'Barrick was here, and we were talking about his company, Sparta Capital. And that clip is ready to roll, and we'll come back in just a few moments. Hope you enjoy.
Cool.
And our first guest today is John O'Barrick. John O'Barrick, you're from Sparta Capital, and you've got a lot of different things going on with your company. There's numerous arms inside the one. Why don't we start off with that and introducing yourself and what your company does.
Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, Sparta Capital is a company that's very focused on the environment, environmental products and the whole environmental space. And our big piece that we've looked at is going green doesn't mean going to the government for subsidy. Going green means there are so many opportunities available in the market just by doing things proper with technology, modifying technology in many forms, whether it's taking waste materials, waste energy, wherever the things happen to be found, and then profiting from that for our shareholders.
Absolutely, and just like you said, there are so many different areas where we're at a crisis in country after country. What do we do with our waste? What do we do with our waste? And it sounds like a lot of the different things that you're doing is you're finding a solution for that waste, but also finding a business for yourself and shareholders to profit from.
Correct, and for the customer. You know, for the customer itself, we look at their waste stream and say we can get rid of that waste stream and turn it into a consumable product, into something valuable later on. The big issue right now is that all of us are talking about is plastic, and so we're focused very heavily on plastic. Right? It's that mountain in the ocean that is catching a lot of attention. It should be. It should be catching a lot of attention as that plastic's floating to the top and it's floating around out there. You know, we, meaning my generation, has been the generation that caused all that plastic problem. So it's our job to at least set the wheels in motion to fix it.
Yeah, and I love hearing that, because it's like almost every day you see another video, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube, and they show beaches just riddled with plastic. You're seeing whales come up with plastic, and it's wrong. We can do this responsibly. Plastic, we can find ways of repurposing it. We don't just dump it in the oceans, and that's, like you said, for decades, it's what we've been doing.
Well, to be fair, I don't think everybody really understood the magnitude of the problem. The wonderful thing about plastic, and we're not just plastic, I should get away from that, but the wonderful thing about plastic is it lasts forever. The bad thing about plastic is it lasts forever. And so it's sitting in the ground, we don't know what to do with it. I just did some work the other day. I was digging up an old hot tub, and I found straws in there that were 20 years old. They looked, really? I could have used them. They still look new. So the idea of being able to do that, and plastic is just a carbon chain. It's no different than taking oil out of the ground. We can convert it back to oil and use it, make it usable again. But we do other things. So fiber, for example, we turn into, which would have been waste, which would have been going to landfill. We turn it into large animal bedding. After it's done with that and it's soiled, then we turn it either into soil augmentation, fertilizer, or turn it into energy, turn it into electricity. That's another area. We've got electronic recycling now that we have in place, and in electronic recycling we try to always repurpose first. Like every one of these things, first thing you want to do is find a use that looks just like it, because that's obviously the greatest profit, to be able to use it in another country, for example. And if you can't do that, then refurbish. Maybe change a hard drive in a computer, or make that circuit card usable somewhere else, and we find something that way. And if you can't do that, then we recycle it. We tear it down and we try to find as much value out of that product as we can. There's still valuable minerals in there, so we're urban mining in those two cases, whether that's plastic or in fiber is some of the areas. But then there's this other side where we find really exciting is energy. Yeah. We're being delivered electrical energy all the time, and we're all excited about electricity, especially your generation, seeing what Elon has done. It's exciting what's going on. We know that we don't necessarily have the power grid yet to be able to support it, but it's coming, and we're working towards it. We're delivering our energy in the form of a wire pipe as opposed to a fuel pipe that's going along. So electricity is a future, a great future for us to be able to use, but even it is being delivered inefficiently. Like a simple thing that we found is that when your voltage and current get out of phase, for example, that's called power factor. Okay. People have been paying power factor, especially since variable speed electronic drive control has been put on, variable speed motor controls in manufacturing. Yep. Well, when that came about, we caused, and that was actually an industry I was very heavily involved in, we caused the problem. We didn't know we caused a problem, it was just collateral damage. But now we're looking at it and saying, holy cow, if you can turn around and put an appliance on there that can convert that, a smart appliance of course, something that can convert that appliance will bring those two in phase, and if you've got a 7.0 power factor, that means you're going to save 30%. The 30% of your electricity bills, and you're hearing what's going on, certainly has been happening in the Wynne government days, and it's still there today. But it's happening not just in our Ontario government, it's happening all over the place, that electricity is expensive, because the delivery cost is so expensive.
Very much so, especially in provinces like Ontario. Now, are you focused strictly on Canada, or are you global, or are you in different areas?
The problem is global. We can go anywhere, but our effort is, what's that line? Think global, but work local. We work locally. There's so much opportunity. You don't need to be stretching you're spreading your wings all around the world. There are people who will go into that. We don't franchise, but we certainly are willing to pass on our knowledge to anybody, because this is something that should be done all over the place.
Absolutely, and it's fantastic to hear. Now, we have a couple slides to put up as well. Sure. That showcase just a couple of photos that are showing the different plastics that you're working with and different areas to be able to go for. We've got them up here now. This is Sparta Capital, and by the way, you are trading on the TSX Venture. SAY, S-A-Y, I believe. Yeah, absolutely. For anybody who's looking into that, is a company that you can get a part of as well.
That's right.
Before those photos here, so we've got a lot of different aspects here. I see we've obviously got the landfills. We were talking about the plastic and all those different areas. But I'm also seeing lots of different areas they're going into. Are you able to explain some of this?
Sure. So I talked already about fiber up here, and I talked about the plastic waste that we would be turning around that we're looking into and how to convert it. The soil augmentation that I talked about, that's farming, that's fertilizer. So we're taking materials and turning them into fertilizer.
Nice.
But this thing we show in the hydrovac trucks, you see these hydrovac trucks, and actually that one and the one at the top are similar. There's another great place that the big market that's out there right now is fiber-optic cable, because you're seeing it with Bell, with not Rogers yet, TELUS is doing it. And in the next 10 years, we have to bury that cable. It just works so much more efficiently because communications are our highways of today. So we got ourselves tapped into that world, and we're going in and we're helping to install that. But not only do we install the cable, we actually take the Table 1 dirt that we're getting from there and we convert it. We actually make
so every process
we extract the water, we reuse the water, we extract the I just like saying the term dirt. We take the dirt, we take out the gravel, we make a different type of fill that we work with, and we combine it with some of the other areas that we're working with where we capture fly ash and use it there. So we turn everything into something, right? And so that's what that line says. Sparta generates revenue by capturing and processing customers' existing waste, transforming it into new forms of consumable products. That's what we do. Yeah. And
it's a fantastic market to be in. There's so much waste. There's so many products just get thrown out.
We are essentially our modern day alchemists. Yeah. You know, the alchemist was looking to turn tin into gold. Yeah. Well, we're turning landfill waste crap into gold. We're able to. So we truly are urban mining, and we've only just begun. To be fair, it's not us necessarily who comes up with all these things. We are a capital company. With not only do we have financial capital, we have human capital. It's the most important thing. Bringing people together, because there are so many smart people out there that we run into, and they're inventors. They're trying to bring their product along. They've been working on it for a decade, and they really don't know what to do next. They need help, and we step in to offer the help for them, and that's how we've built the company.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a lot of stories about that where you get a lot of really bright minds who have great ideas and great inventions, but then they don't really catch on. You know, nobody finds those people, or they don't know how to seek someone like yourself. They don't know how to seek capital. So then those ideas die, or they don't go as far as they're supposed to go. Yet, you know, we have well over 7 billion people on this earth. It's amazing that we haven't been able to implement, you know, the resources and the different devices, whatever it be, to start getting this plastic away, to start being more having recycling on the tip of your brain.
But what makes it so exciting right now is the information age, because we are doing that today. And I think that what has made humankind advance the way it has isn't that we're smart. It's that we communicate. It's that we work together. And our ability to work together, just like, you know, you can move a mountain with the proper team. So and look at every sports team that's out there. When that coach helps to get them to gel, amazing things happen. Well, people are doing that, but the information is now flowing. So we're hearing about, you know, some of the things that we're doing. There's probably some people in India doing the same thing, and we get to see that these days. They get to see us, you know, and that's what's really advancing everything so quickly. So as much as we caused the problem, we're now having a chance to fix the problem. I'm very excited that we will be able to fix the problem. I just and our job in my generation is to try to teach your generation what we're doing, so that you carry the torch and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and that's why it was really interesting when your company was first brought to my attention, because it's something that absolutely needs to be done. And you know, millennials, the generation I'm a part of, you know, we look at a lot of these different areas like, you know, this is our responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility, but we're going to be in 20, 15 years, we're going to really start seeing, we're already seeing it now. So to be a part of...
We've seen some really exciting changes in the last few years.
Look at the weather, look at all these different aspects, look at it's getting worse and worse and worse. So it's very, very interesting, all these different areas that you've gone into and going to continue to go into, and that as an investor, they could be a part of this in a certain way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our whole goal is to respect our investors, to bring them along. Our shareholders are the same as us. Now, you know, some of us put effort in, knowledge, wisdom, whatever you want to call it, and some people just put money in. They're a part of this company. Our biggest issue is very few people know about us yet, and I don't know if it's an issue. You know, for the longest time, we've just been quiet. We just continue to build. So a few years ago, we started into this process, and we started building revenues. Right. So first year we did about this is in 2016. I think we did 4.5 million in that, 4.5 million. Next year we did about 7 million. They're just,
So progression.
Right. And everything that we do, any earnings that we have, pound them right back into the company for now. We want this company to be making a lot of change, and the shareholders should benefit from it.
Absolutely. And the last slide on here, it probably says it, pretty much what we've just been talking about last year is the mission statement here.
Yeah.
Just going through, and in the very end, do what's right. So I love that.
Do what's right. We actually own that trademark. That's owned. Yeah. That's what the registered trademark.
Yeah,
we actually own that. That comes from our electronic recycling division. But the thing that one of the big things that we break in our mission here is that all of this can be achieved through proper application of technology. That's our job, is to find that. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people think it's that last line. It's the application for government subsidies. Have they done great things? Yeah. Many have. Yes, they have. But it's not always wait for the government to do everything. That's not it. We can do an awful lot ourselves, because government is just a collection of us, right? It's all of us doing it.
Absolutely.
But if you say government, then you're saying, well, let's wait for the next guy to do it. Let's wait for that guy to do it. Let's wait for that guy. No, do it yourself. Technology is there, and there are smart people who want to apply it.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
and I can only imagine that we're going to be speaking a lot more in the near future, because I can't wait to see you continue to ramp up and continue to provide shareholder value, but also continue to build your company. It's something that I want to keep a close eye on the next while.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that, because and appreciate anybody who is watching to contact us to get involved with what we're doing.
Yeah. And very lastly, is there somewhere they can contact?
SpartaCapital.com.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Absolutely. That was John Aparic of Sparta Capital.
Yeah,
loved it.
We're gonna hear more from them.
Absolutely, and those are the types of things, I think, especially with millennials. Not to go into this whole, we're segregating our population from demographic, whatever it be. But in this case, I am. Millennials are really looking at that, and when they can go into a company or be a part of a company that's actually going out there, it's profitable, or it's going to be profitable, it's making money, and they're actually taking waste out of the oceans or out of the landfills, all that kind of stuff. That's something interesting. We're just getting to know them now. I'm sure we'll be talking to them many times again in the near future. So it was exciting. It was nice to talk to them.
Well, I hope people follow up with these clips, because we don't want to just let anyone on the show. We're bringing on people that we think people should take a look at. We're not telling anyone to buy, sell, or hold, but follow up with these clips. Do your DD. And maybe follow up in the chat room with questions.
Yeah, and on that note as well, we didn't get a time, because usually at the very beginning we'll talk for a few minutes and all of that, but we went right into Namaste with Sean, because why wouldn't you? He was already queued up, we loved it. But just for those who are watching, who on earth are these people on the Midas Letter network? Brandon of FTMIG, we have Karl Boyd across from me. We started this group. This group's been going for about 1.5 years now. I shouldn't say we started. I came into it. You had started as an idea, and it's just like you said. It's due diligence. It's trying to find the companies that stand out, find the companies that we believe have good management or a good competitive advantage, or whatever it be, and then go into our chat rooms and go into our different communities and talk about it. And it's like you said, no buying, selling, or holding. We do not say those words. We're not financial advisors. If you hear something on this show, that's supposed to be the cue for you to go look into them, not to buy them necessarily. But if we have them on the show, we do think they've got a lot of quality there. So,
well, you know what?
Find them.
What's cool about our group is, like last night. You want to pull that up, Brandon? I actually asked a question in the Facebook group. And I said, you know what? Here's a question. From current valuations, and if you only have these two to choose from, where would you invest your money and why?
Yeah.
And I don't know how many comments. There's 50 comments in that. And the two companies that I used was American and Cannabis Growth, because as a speculator, I've gone through this where it's not fair to compare these two fundamentally. Obviously, there's differences in these companies, right?
Yeah.
As you see, Cannabis got the $5 billion investment. American doesn't have that, right? But what's going to make me more money, right now? As you see, the big caps have run, and oftentimes in the past, I'm not suggesting it's going to happen now, but the profit taking happens, and you see the mid caps and the small caps start to run.
It's going into them, yeah.
Right. So as a speculator myself, I'm asking myself this question: where would I put my money right now?
Yeah.
you know, to move things around. I mean, you know, our other co-founder, George, did this very, very well, better than anyone I know. I think last year the guy had over 20,000% gains. That's not a joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He did fantastic.
And absolutely, moving his, you know, moving money around on a 3 to 6 month basis or whatever, pulling money from the big guys, going into the small guys. So, you know, I don't know if you want to read some of those comments off, but that was the question that I asked, and we got some really good opinions.
Yeah.
And so that's what's great about our Facebook group.
And there was one comment as well. We won't say their name, but there was one comment that was on there before that.
Right.
That's something that I look into as well. And you know, you said there was a lot of differences between American and Canopy, but there's also a lot of similarities as well, where they're all global. They're going to have their and they're both going to have their GMP, the large facilities. They're in the medical side. Canopy is other than Aurora, like Canopy is and has been the leader for years. I think they're going to be for a long time. Bruce does an amazing job over there, and there's a reason why their stock is going crazy. But you have to ask yourself, just like you said, what companies can you go into? What's the more likely company to double or to triple from here? And that's an important question to ask.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get married to necessarily one stock, right? So I'm just throwing the question out there. I'm not telling anyone what to do, but these are the questions I ask myself, right?
Yeah. If I can read this question as well, and forgive me as my contacts barely work after the few hours of being in the studio, but it says, great question, Karl. You had me pondering this all night. I liked Amari before the January incident, and I believe it wasn't for this, we'd be on the TSX and a higher share price. Very true. Nothing about the company's fundamentals have changed. In fact, it's gotten much better. I was initially drawn to Ben's ability to execute, and over the past 7 months, I have not been disappointed. I once heard that there are 2 types of companies, those having problems and those who are going to have problems. I tend to gravitate towards the latter, as long as those problems don't involve fundamentals. I believe that Mari at this point has lots of upside. I sold my weed in the 20s and definitely wanted to kick myself in the face yesterday when it hit the $60. Constellation's buy of weed is so huge, and you know that they have more resources and access to dig deeper into the company than any of us. But they are also buying so many different reasons than any retail investor. Should something catastrophic happen in the markets and share price of weed dip to $10, it's a low dip, but should it dip to $10, Constellations won't be selling. The share price is not as important to them as it is to a retail investor. Weed and Mari are both speculative buys at this point, especially at a time of many overvaluations and new market highs. I suggest everyone read Security Analysis by Graham and Dodd. It will help those that don't understand valuations.
Yeah, so amazing, a great comment, but also shows the value of the Facebook group.
Yep.
And that's the culture that we wanted to build. So I know that we're getting some new members that are asking to get in now. Hopefully they get in and they navigate around and use it for what it's good for.
Absolutely, and this is just one aspect too. I mean, this is a post on our Facebook groups. We have our Discord chat rooms where I go every single day. I mean, I remember when I first came on and you asked me to be an administrator back when it was a small Facebook group. And I said yes right away, and you said, that was really fast. I'm like, yeah, because you would ask me, how did you get into this group? And when did you get in this group? I didn't have an answer.
Yeah.
I didn't have an answer because, quite honestly, it became so normal for me to check the chat rooms and to talk to people. I can't remember what trading was when I was doing it by myself or with my one buddy, Pat Moher. Shout out to Ethical Image when we just did it together.
So, Brandon, what do you think of this sector right now? It's had a lot of movement since we did this show.
It's had a lot of movement. So I was actually talking to Ben. He's from Midas Letter. Ben was one of the writers, and we were talking on Twitter. What are we seeing right now? And I was getting a little bit worried because if this market runs too much up until October 17th, I think October 17th then becomes that much bigger of a sell the news. Is the industry dead? Are these companies going to die? Absolutely not. I'm simply talking about traders. If you're getting 10%, 15%, 5% day after day after day, it's only a matter of time before some trader who's made 30 or 40% is like, I'm okay with this, and they cash out. That's what you don't want. I personally don't want that.
But who can buy when those traders are selling? Who can now come in and buy?
Institutions.
Well, you're already seeing that.
We're already seeing it, but anybody who at first was not allowed in it because it's illegal, there's a lot of money coming into it after October 17th. So you have to be prepared for that as well. I can sit here with you and speculate. We've done this a dozen times at least, and each week, depending on how the week went, we change our minds because it keeps changing.
I thought the mining space was going to rock more, and then money would come out of there and go into cannabis. But this is going the other way right now, and we're going to get into this later, mining. But I think September is going to be a massive month for junior mining, personally. And I think that some people from this space, from cannabis, some speculators, are probably going to take some healthy profits and move it over into some high-flying mining place. So we'll get into that later.
Is that what you were keying me up for? I didn't hear the...
No, we can get into it later. We can still talk about...
but no, absolutely. I mean, that's what you have to look at what's hot. We spent a lot of time on cannabis, and we still do, because I think it's an amazing sector that a lot of people are going to make a lot of money off of.
Yeah.
But you have to keep your money flowing. If you stay, think of all the smarter people who, bought in August in their cannabis stocks they saw the last 2 years, and they sold all in January. Jason Spadafora, you bring up his name a lot because he said, sell in January. Look how right he actually was. I mean, there's a lot of other things that happened too. There was an entire meltdown of the economic system and markets, whatever it be. But it's interesting. If you held the entire time, though, you would have lost a lot of money. So you have to keep moving your money around. Not everything, but some of it.
You don't have to. I don't know. It's just difficult for people. There's a lot of newer investors in this space, and it's a roller coaster of emotions, right? If they don't know sort of when the sector gets hot and they buy in kind of high, and then all of a sudden it gets shorted, and there's this big crash. I mean, that's a big emotional ride for a lot of people, and they have to go through that. And a lot of people unfortunately sell because they're worried about losing everything, and you know what I mean. So, but that's what our Facebook group is good for.
Yeah, and that's another good point. I think we brought it up a little bit last time as well. Is the panic? It's okay to sell, and it's okay to buy when you might look back later and be like, I'm okay. Hindsight, maybe it wasn't the right decision, but don't do it out of panic. Don't do it just because you see something flying one way or the other and you quickly buy a rocket that's actually exploding, but you bought it right at the top. Or something's going a little bit red and you panic and you freak out and you just sell. Ask people. There could be a reason for why that's happening, and it could make more sense. You can make a better financial decision if you were communicating with other people who are like-minded or, as you always say, smarter than you. That's always a great thing.
Well, yeah, more educated. I mean, like, for example, we had John on again today, who had a fantastic interview. That's someone who's more educated than you and I on exploration and junior mining. I mean, listening to that man talk today, it was just an educational segment. And I'm just sitting back, I'm like, this is amazing for us and our viewers and members, whatever. So yeah, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I should almost tell my TD fund manager douchebag story, or we could save it for another time. But no, that person,
we have 5 minutes. We have 5 minutes before. Say it. We have 5 minutes before it goes on.
Well, people have. I talked about it. I saw an article. I was trying to pull it up so we can share it, but I saw something from TD, and basically they've increased their position in Canopy, right? And after I first took my first position in this space, it was Canopy. I got it around $3. Funny enough, I was at a party, and there's a guy there who is he's a TD fund, he's a portfolio manager, and so I'm kind of excited and all that, and I figured, okay, I'll ask him what he thinks of my purchase, right? And the guy just hates all over it, just spitting all over it, and he's like, do they even make money? Like, what's their EPS and all that? And I'm just sitting there on the couch, I don't know all of the verbiage. Like, I didn't know as much as, not even close.
Don't say some of the other stuff.
I don't know. I still have a lot to learn, right? Still do.
Yeah.
And so he's basically like, my clients wouldn't touch it. TD will never invest in it. These big banks will never touch it, right? And he's the loudest guy in the room. So importantly to note here is that he sort of, the flaw there was that I'm not his client. I didn't walk into his room. I just touched my microphone there. I didn't walk into his work or whatever and set up a meeting and say, hey, I have a good business. Where should I invest some money? Right? I'm just a speculator. I'm going to put 5-10 grand at something, right? So he couldn't detach himself from like work, but he just had to be the loud guy in the room. And obviously, there's more to the story, but Canopy's at what?
Between 55 and 60.
58.20 is the last trade. Like, I mean, dude.
And you were probably talking to him, $2 or $3.
Yeah, so, I sent him a little text the other day. I don't know him that well, actually. And I just dropped the link there and sent it off, and he didn't get back to me.
Yeah,
and I don't get invited to those parties anymore. You know what I mean? But that's my TD fund manager douchebag story. So when you're watching analysts,
what happened if you listen to him? What would happen if you listen and then look at the money you've made from the market?
Yeah, you know what? Look,
Listening to your gut.
The guy works for someone still. Obviously, he has a job. I don't. We do this now. I love my life, right? So he, it's like, to go back to that story, it was my fault. I take responsibility because I asked the wrong person. I thought, this guy's smart. He deals with money, blah blah blah. But no, you know what I mean. He doesn't. He still works for money. You know what I mean? And this guy goes in the meetings every day and gets told what to tell his clients. I sit there with my portfolio and I have to do all this work and figure out what am I going to do with my money. You know what I mean? So kind of went off a little bit there from the story, but when you're watching other networks and you see analysts on there, you just keep in mind, if they mention a stock or something you're interested in and they're not really bullish on it, just keep in mind they might have a different, they have some issues there with risk where they can't look at that stock because of risk, where you as an individual can't. So always keep in mind where the person's coming from, or stuff like that. And anytime you can get your hands on podcasts, someone dropped a an Alan Brockstein podcast he did with a company. I unfortunately I don't remember the name, so I can't give them a little shout out, but I listen to every single podcast I can get my hands on. Every single interview, even some of these people, I don't agree with everything Alan Brockstein has to say. I don't. But I like the guy because he follows the sector and you can learn from that. I remember
definitely.
Last summer, I heard I listened to a podcast with Jason Spadafora, and one thing that I remember from that was he was talking about the cycle of cannabis and when those stocks run. And it helped give me a little bit of confidence to be like, you know what? Just chill. Things are quiet right now. If anything, that might have been a buying opportunity for me. And sure enough, the sector took off basically exactly when he said it was going to.
Yeah, absolutely, right? And that's why I wanted to tell that story, because you have to look at other avenues. And even when it comes to analysts, we got to jump to our next video in just a second here. But even when it comes to analysts, is that I look at them and all I see now is, okay, so you're already front loaded and you're ready to do it. There's always a reason for those analysts. There's always, so you gotta watch out, but that's a huge tangent we're gonna have probably after this or another show, because we are going to go to a company that was here earlier today, Eve & Co. We're gonna be
Even Flow?
Even Flow, your favorite Pearl Jam song. Eve & Co.
Eve & Co.
And that is Melinda, and she's the CEO, and we're gonna go to that video right now.
Right now.
And we are in the studio today with Melinda Rombouts of Eve & Co. Welcome. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's very exciting.
It is. It's a little bit far away from your facility. You said your facility was a couple of hours away from you.
Yeah. So we're in just outside of Strathroy, which is about halfway between Sarnia and London.
Yep.
A couple hours away from Toronto.
Yeah, just a few. Well, thank you for the drive to come down. So we're here to talk about Eve & Co. and all the things that you've been doing, and it's interesting because I believe you were saying earlier that you were the 34th license in Canada. That's quite early now. We're at like 115 or whatever it is. It keeps going. So you've been in the business a little while. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how everything's going?
Sure. So we were one of their first applicants, and we were lucky enough to get in 2016. We got our cultivation license, so license number 34. At the time we had 120,000 square feet, so at the time we were actually one of the largest, but of course everyone keeps expanding, including us. So since then we've added another 100,000 square feet, so we're sitting at around 220, and we've started our second expansion. And we're going to get to that 1 million square feet. The building should be up by the end of the year and hopefully running in spring of next year.
That's fantastic, because you hear about all these things. We're going to have 1 million square feet. We're going to have 3 million, but then you want to actually find the companies who are actually doing that. And it sounds like you said, spring of next year, you'll be there.
Yep. And then I come from the greenhouse industry. My family's all in greenhouses, so we know what we're doing when we expand. So I think that we've shown so far that we can get a very cost-effective greenhouse up and running and still meet all the requirements for the ACMPR, and really keep our projects on time. And so I think it's very exciting for sure. But I think that as far as time, we should be up and running by spring of next year.
That's fantastic, and right in time,
Yeah.
right in time, especially with Ontario. It's not going to be until, what was it, April, I think, April 17th or something like that. So you'll be coming online just as that's starting to really ramp up. But you already have 200,000 square feet going, so I'm sure you have a little bit of product ahead of time.
It is, and it's our team at home is working like mad. We're doing. We're expanding all the time as far as our different strains and getting more planted, and they've been harvesting all this week, so there's so much to do, which is why we're hiring like mad to try to keep up with everything. So more people.
It's a crazy race.
Yeah, I know. It is. It's a huge race. I always say we're going about 100 miles an hour.
Yep.
So, but that's the same, not only us, but the regulators, the distributors, everyone. This is such a fast, fun industry.
Absolutely, and to go on the word team there's something unique about your company, and something that when you look at a lot of the cannabis companies out there, there are a lot of men in the power roles.
Yes.
The entire sector wide. You have a very, very dominant women-based company, and you are thriving. That's got to be like one thing just to be able to be the 34th LP, to have everything going, but to also show, there's a strong women presence, and you're doing a fantastic job as of so far. How many people on your team are women?
I would say it is probably just by chance. It's over 50%, but it happened to be the heads of departments are pretty much all women, except for maintenance. And then like our head of quality assurance, our provincial liaison, quality assurance, head of production even. We have people helping in, our master grower is male, but we have a lot of team leaders that are women, so we are very strong. But I think just because we've given them the chance, I really believe that in our team that we kind of promote within. We give them that opportunity to really shine, and we give them support. So that's why if they have that opportunity, that they can really move forward. So I think that we have a really great team, and it is heavy and female led.
No, and I love to hear it, and just in general, the success that it sounds like you've been making over the last little while, and since 2016, or probably before that actually, because you had a license since 2016. But when it comes to different markets and different things, in a nutshell, are you going more into oils, more into the flower? Are you abroad?
So we have partners out of Colorado, and we do believe everything that's kind of happened in the States, because they're about 5 years ahead of us, that we'll see those trends up here. So, they started off with dried flower as well, and then really moved into oil and extracts, and of course we're going to see that here as well. So right now, of course, just dried flower, but we're really excited when Health Canada finally allows us those extra, like the edibles, and we're really excited about what we can do with the product line, so that we can really focus on women and their needs, even as far as there's so many female concentrated products in the States that we'd really like to bring up here, kind of what we call under the Circle of Eve, where they have products for female sanitary, sensual products. They have beauty creams and cosmetics. There's so many different aspects. So we're very, very excited about that. So we're really looking forward when we finally get into those other products once Health Canada allows us to.
Yeah, and it's exciting because what I didn't know just until a few months ago is that topical creams and makeups, all of that, a lot of them, to get omega-3s and fatty acids into these makeups, they're using fish oils. But when you're able to use things like CBD and hemp oil, you can actually get those fatty acids and omegas and have it completely vegan. And I know that's a huge point to a lot of people. They don't want animal products in their creams, whatever it be. So it's very interesting you say that, because I think it's going to be, like you said, a massive market that many people aren't thinking about, and you'll be going right after. It'll be women going after women, and you'll have all these different products to be able to display for them. So it's in Health Canada's court now, and they're going to allow all these things. Some creams are allowed, but the other edibles and things like that, not yet. I don't know why, but
I think it's very understandable. Like, you hear some kind of negative stories happening where, a kid eats some chocolate that they weren't meant to, and people end up in the hospital because they're just overwhelmed. So I think that Health Canada's doing a good job on trying to get ahead of that and setting up the program properly. So, you know, it would be nice though once it comes.
Well, it sounds like you've been positioning yourself very, very well to be ready for when that time does come. In legalization, October 17th.
Yep.
It's just a little while away. Are you more excited for legalization or for what you can do in 2019 with everything coming on?
Oh, definitely 2019.
Yeah.
I think everyone is struggling to be ready on time. It's a race. You know, everyone is kind of so overwhelmed. The regulators, the distributors, there's so much to do. So I think all we can do at this point is just do the best that we can. But the plans that we have for the future, I think that's the exciting part.
I can't wait to find these companies. I've been tracking a lot of companies over the last 4 or 5 years, especially in cannabis. And I can't wait to see, I would have the same answer myself. 2018 will be great. There's a very large, significant moment of legalization, but really it's 2019 where you're gonna say, okay, which companies have positioned themselves correctly, who are actually able to grow their facilities and be able to grow cannabis and have it not all go bad or whatever it be. But 2019 is going to be very, very exciting, and I can't wait to see what you have in store for that year.
Oh yeah, no, there'll be so much coming up, so it's very exciting, and there's new ideas coming up all the time, so we're very excited as well.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, thank you for driving all the way over here and being able to talk to ourselves on our show. Again, you are a publicly listed stock. It's under EVE, I believe?
Yeah, we're on the Venture Exchange under EVE.
Well, there you go. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it very much.
Yes,
and we'll be in talk soon. I can't wait to see what you have in store.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
And we're back. That was a great interview. That was the first I had heard of the company myself, actually. I'm quite surprised by that. But I'm looking at it now. I've got it pulled up here on the quotes on my TD. EVE is up 14.29%, up 4 cents on almost 400,000 shares volume. So
yeah, I still have a lot of
tear.
I got a lot of DD left to do on this one here, but I think I'm going to take a position.
Yep.
So we're not front running anything because I don't own it.
I don't own it either.
I'm probably in.
This is the opposite of that, actually. We're saying that it's on a rip. It's going to possibly go on a rip, and we're going to be stuck buying higher. But it was really interesting. It was nice hearing that. It was great getting a chance to talk to Melinda, and like you said, I want to learn more about the company.
Yeah, I want to see what their market cap's at right now.
I will tell you right now, actually.
And you know what? Someone's asking for a level 2 in our chat room.
67.57 million is their market cap. So that's interesting. They've had their license for a long time.
I'm going to give Delana a level 2 live.
Are you going to do it just by saying it because we don't have...
Take a little screenshot? No, I'm just going to dip it over.
Oh, into the chat room.
I mean, still got to work, right?
Yeah, there's a few things ripping today. It's funny, you spend so much time... I'm so used to just being glued in front of a screen most of the day. We're calling, but we'll always have our different screens open, so we're at least looking at it. And then you come here, we're meeting people, we're doing our live show. You don't get to look at your... I have a buy order in right now. Well, I can't even see what's happening.
I'm still a speculator investor first, so we're having meetings whenever I'm selling stuff and whatever. I mean, that's like my priority.
Well, let's go through a couple, because like Delta 9.
Feed the family.
Delta 9 is up 12.26%. They were like a buck.
Dude,
a buck before earlier. American, that is a client. That's the one we do have a client. So we gotta say that they're at the high a day right now. 700,000 shares traded, so a little bit less volume on a lot of these actually. Canopy is still in the green. I don't know if it was in the red earlier. It was 56 was the low today, but just a lot of high flyers. The mining is not looking too good today. A lot of that is in the red, but you got to expect if you're going to have these high flyers, it does not just keep going up, up, and up. It just doesn't happen. There's going to be pullbacks, it looks like today, possibly for a lot of the mining companies. It's looking like that today.
On the mining tip, we got John next, right?
We do. So for those that don't know, John Patrick Holstein, he is from BMR. He was on our show last week. We cut him off. He has so much to say. I think in this clip that we have with him, I think I might have spoke for 2 minutes worth or so because he has so much. I was just listening. When someone's smarter than you in the room, you listen.
When John speaks, you listen.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, a friend of mine, Al, actually always stops. He's like, not smarter, more educated.
More educated. I'll go with that as well. I'm just
more
learning
educated. Yeah. And you know, I'm looking at CCW right now. The last trade was at 61 cents, so it's down today. But I still think there's a little bit of warrant selling happening on that.
They had a lot of them. I can't recall the exact numbers.
I don't know.
A lot
I
of
wouldn't
warrants,
say
though.
a lot, but I mean, once this stuff gets cleared up, you know, hopefully September. I mean, I'm really, really excited for September in the junior mining space. Not suggesting any one particular stock, but just in general, I think that space is going to have a big September.
Yeah.
And you know, John talked about that here in the pre-record.
He did.
And I don't think I was able to mention it to him, but you know, I think that some of these some profit taking probably from the big movement in the cannabis stocks, right?
Yeah.
Some of that money comes over.
It's going to flow. They go hand in hand. Look at us. Half our portfolio is either cannabis or mining, and we're constantly going back and forth between the two with where we see the most short-term gains in certain things. So
I have my quote stream up right beside me, and I keep looking over at it, and American seems to be moving here.
Yeah.
There's only 100 up on the ask, and then it's moving.
Well, let's see how that flies.
It's about to hit 199.
Let's see how that flies while we're on. If it gets over $2, was it 210?
Dude,
I think that Justin was saying was the really want to see it get up above
211. We'd have to check, but yeah, I mean, there's a wall at $2, 97,100 shares, but it's cruising.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm hoping this is the case. I'm hoping that maybe some of those mid caps and small caps might move here. You know what I'm saying? That if history repeats itself, that might be what is happening. But yeah.
Well, absolutely. Well, why don't we go to John and our interview we did just shortly and earlier today, where we were talking Garibaldi and CCW. Let's go there now. And we are back. We had John Patrick Holstein come on last week, and we did not get enough. We had about 20 minutes or so. You have so much to say, John. I just wanted to say thank you for coming back on the show, and welcome as well.
Welcome, John.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, and we just had a little bit of a mic issue there, but one thing that I wanted to start off is that, you know, we've been looking at our different Discord chat rooms, and everything's been on fire right now with all these different mining stocks flowing. The venture seems to be recovering. It seems to be on fire. What are you seeing on there?
I would agree. I mean, we were looking at the venture in real interesting fashion the week of the 13th of August, and it looked as if we might hit a very important low around 655, 660, somewhere in that area. And it's been a tough year. I mean, we started out red hot in January. You know, the index erupted to about 940. The marijuana stocks and the cryptocurrency stocks were leading that charge. And then, you know, quite a pullback. You know, some people thought, you know, maybe this is really a bear market. You know, we maintained all along that we're still in a bull market, and but it was you know, a tough stretch there because the index just continued to drop, you know, month after month, and then it looks like we definitely hit an important bottom around the middle of August. If you look at the long-term charts that we've been putting out the last couple of years, interestingly, there's a very strong band of support between about 708 on the venture and about 660. And sure enough, we hit the bottom of that band of support, you know, came within about a point or two of it. And then all of a sudden, boom, it reacted at that point. Now we're back over 700, this morning over 720 actually. And in conjunction with all of this, of course, there have been some pretty interesting stories. You know, on the marijuana side, for example, the big deal that we did with Constellation Brands was a game changer, and the marijuana sector has really rebounded strongly. And then on the resource side, you know, we've been seeing some really interesting drill results and some big moves in certain stocks up in the northwest part of BC, which we talked about last week. You had a nice set of results from Avon Resources, Golden Ridge Resources with a copper gold porphyry discovery, and then of course Great Bear Resources out in the Red Lake District. You know, that stock took off like crazy after they came out with some really nice drill results. And of course, McEwen came in, Rob McEwen and McEwen Mining came in for a private placement that they're finalizing right now at $1.45 on that, and some other interesting situations too. So we've, you know, I think what this is leading to potentially, if you look at the chart, and I think at BMR we're blessed with one of the top technical analysts in the business. And you know, the way he's looking at it, the way I'm looking at it right now, we could see a really, really big September. Like, I mean, a powerful September here. Just a bunch of things are coming together, technically and fundamentally. There's been a lot of money going into the ground as well, you know, exploration-wise in some key areas, and those results are going to start coming out in September. You know, lots more to come from Northwest BC. I'm looking forward to getting up into the Golden Triangle again in September, into the SK camp, and further north up where GT Gold is drilling. That's interesting as well. So there's lots to come. Technically, getting through that 720 area on the venture is really significant. That's the 50-day moving average. That has been strong resistance for quite a while now. And it's also the 1,000-day moving average. And here's something to think about. You don't often see this, but I think later in the year here, we're going to see that 1,000-day moving average for the venture reverse to the upside. And that will power the next stage of this bull cycle, which I'm convinced we're in. I think we're going to go to the highs here. And one final point on this, it's fascinating. 2018 looks like 2016 in reverse, because we hit a high in January this year. We came back a 30% correction to the August low, and then we move forward and we have a new up wave. In 2016, we started weak. We hit you know, an all-time low in early 2016 in January, and then the index went on a 7-month tear. It peaked for the year in August, and then it kind of struggled for the rest of the year. So this is like 2016 in reverse.
Yeah.
I love John.
Yeah. The amount of, I'm just sitting here and I'm just listening. I'm just listening and soaking it in. But it's interesting that you say, like, the situation we're in right now, and we can talk about that later on as well. You know, what's happening with, everyone wants to know what's happening with Garibaldi. We spoke about it last time. Everyone wants to know what's happening with Canada Cobalt Works, CCW. But what I'm really curious about is, we're looking at that now. What first brought you to those companies that you thought, you know what, I think this area, I think these companies have something that can really work? What first put you there, and what are your thoughts on it still as of today?
Are you talking about Garibaldi specifically? You know, obviously with Garibaldi, that was just, you know, a lot of research on not only the Nickel Mountain project, but the SK camp in general, right? So part of it is just getting boots on the ground, getting a feel for the district, going through a lot of historical data, and looking at the people involved, management and you know, the geological crews are critical. You know, with Garibaldi, you know, I think the turning point was when you had these guys like Everett Makela, of course, Dr. Peter Lightfoot getting involved. You know, these nickel experts from Sudbury, and interestingly enough, you know, the northwest part of BC was not really looked at ever, you know, by these nickel specialists from out in Sudbury. So it took these guys from out in Sudbury, who lived and breathed nickel mines all their life, to see the potential of what could exist in the SK camp. And I firmly believe that we're looking at the next mine in the SK camp at Nickel Mountain. I really believe it's there.
Well, no, and that's great to hear. And if I can ask another question, that was Garibaldi. What about Canada Cobalt Works? What's happening over there, and what put you to that area in the first place?
Yeah, that's an interesting, fascinating story, Brandon. I actually, in 2015, I was touring around the Northern Ontario Cobalt camp. It was, you know, the town of Cobalt was like a ghost town. I mean, it was dead as a doornail. This was 2015, in the depths of the bear market. I mean, it was awful, as you know. And I went through the district, and went through the town of Cobalt, and And if our crews there at your studio can bring up that map, first of all, of the northern Ontario area that I'm talking about, you can see. Yeah, thank you. You can see Cobalt there, and it's a very broad district. You've got Cobalt, which was the birthplace of Canadian hard rock mining. You know, what happened there in the early 1900s was actually more phenomenal than what we saw with the Klondike Gold Rush. It's an amazing story of the the high-grade silver discoveries that were made there. So from Cobalt, it's about an hour and a half drive to the northwest to Goganda. You know, the Goganda district, also big silver producing area in the early 1900s. So, you know, Goganda, Cobalt, and to the south at Silver Center, all these areas just lit up. It was an incredible mining rush in the early 1900s. Amazing grades of silver. Over 100 mines were discovered in that northern Ontario district in the early 1900s. You know, that's again the birthplace of Canadian hard rock mining. The Hailbury School of Mines came out of this. I mean, that has produced some really big players in the mining sector, and so many things came out of what occurred there in the early 1900s. Now they weren't looking for cobalt. They were kind of ignoring the cobalt. The cobalt was there, but of course, cobalt was not important at that point in time. There were also some recovery issues as well. So they were using the cobalt to vector to the high-grade silver, and some of the grades are just phenomenal. We're talking in the many hundreds of ounces per ton silver, and this region became one of the top 5 silver producing regions in the entire world in the early 1900s. It happened very quickly. It had a big impact. The town of Cobalt, just all of a sudden 10,000 people were living there, and it was crazy. It's a fascinating history. There's a gentleman, by the way, whose name is Peter Fancy, who wrote a series of books. Anybody that's interested in Canadian history or Canadian exploration history should check out what he's done. It's called the Temiskaming Trails. Okay. Peter Fancy is the author. The Temiskaming Treasure Trails, and he's in his 80s. He's still alive. I've spoken to him, and he's chronicled the history of this district. It's absolutely amazing. So I spent time there in 2015 looking at this, and doing a lot of research, a lot of historical research, and looking at the different historical mines. And I came to the conclusion that hey, there's a huge opportunity here. From an exploration standpoint, from a discovery standpoint, and also the cobalt story, that nobody was jumping onto at that point was very evident, in terms of its potential there in 2015. And sure enough, what happened? I mean, cobalt started to take off in 2016 as the electric vehicle revolution, kicked further into gear, and the cobalt price just skyrocketed. And that's when this area started to really get some recognition. You had a lot of claims being staked. There was an incredible staking rush in 2016 into 2017, and it was obvious that hey, the game was on, right? And unfortunately, on the negative side of this, I think. You had some promoters that were probably more interested in mining the market than mining a resource. So you had some pretty sharp promoters on Howe Street and elsewhere that just picked up a bunch of claims with no real intention to do anything with them other than to use them to promote their stock. Right. So some of that really good ground in the Northern Ontario Cobalt camp is unfortunately locked up, I think, in the wrong hands. But the one company that we identified in 2015 that I said at this time a couple of years ago in early 2016, this company would emerge as really the #1 player, and that's Canada Cobalt. At that time, they were known as Castle Silver Resources. And the thing about this company is that, you know, they were playing the long game. They had spent millions of dollars long before, you know, the cobalt price erupted. You know, they were very forward thinking, and, you know, they had spent millions of dollars advancing their property, getting underground access, getting the permitting, doing all the things they needed to do to get ready for what Frank Baza was convinced eventually would be a boom in cobalt, and he was bang on. And so, you know, this company also features some people that were involved with Agnico Eagle. You know, back in the 1980s, Agnico Eagle dominated this district in the 1980s. So you've got all of that local knowledge, all of that district knowledge. And because of that, because of the fact they were so far ahead of everybody else, I mean, this company, you know, had its permits, underground access, the only company with underground access, and also, which we'll talk about shortly, a process to actually properly and effectively and efficiently recover the cobalt, because you've got arsenic issues in this district that do complicate the processing of the metal. And so they had all these things in place, and so we said, we called it in early 2016. We said, hey, this is going to be the one stock that's going to be the top performer. And we've got a chart, actually. If the guys in the studio there can bring this up, we've got a picture of the added entrance, and then also a chart that I want to show you. There's again the map, and you can see cobalt, and here's the entrance to the Castle mine. So and this leads to this goes on. There's 11 levels to this mine. I mean, this thing goes on forever. When you go in this thing, it's kind of like a rat maze, because there's tunnels going all over the place. There's a lot of room in there, a lot of room, and veins like you wouldn't believe. Okay, so the you know, a lot of the cobalt was left behind. Agnico Eagle mined this in the 1980s, very high grade silver, and the cobalt was left behind. Now, as I said, you know, Canada Cobalt's been the #1 performer. There's a chart right there, 2018. You can see how CCW has just, you know, vaulted above everybody else in the camp. And there's a couple of very basic reasons for this. Number one, they're the only company in the district with underground access. You really do need underground access here. They're permitted for that. They're actually hauling material out of there. They've got a mini pilot plant set up right now at the site, so they're actually making concentrate, cobalt-rich concentrate on site, which then goes to SGS to make cobalt sulfate, as we've seen. And so the stock has done remarkably well. It's pulled back a little bit here in the last week or so, but that's just a normal, technical, healthy pullback. I think there's unbelievable things in store for this company going forward, because they're the only company so far to actually produce a cobalt sulfate product. The first company during this battery arms race to do that. That is hugely significant. They're the only company with underground access. They're drilling right now. They're drilling underground. They're drilling also at surface. This is an area, the Castle mine is in an area where there was probably about 50 million ounces of silver produced historically. There's other mines very close by. And so where there's one ore body, gentlemen, there's always another, right? And so I'm convinced they've got one of the best geologists in the district, in Doug Robinson. He's a walking encyclopedia, very renowned in that district. He knows what he's talking about. And I think we're actually going to see not only new discoveries underground, but a new discovery to the east of the mine, where they're drilling right now. So they've got two drill programs going on. They're producing cobalt, rich concentrates on site, and it's a remarkable story. And so these guys have emerged obviously as the #1 player, I think, in the district. It's been the top performing stock. The stock has a good share structure to it. They're the only company as well, and this is really critical when you're investing in the venture. I mean, you got to really look at these share structures, and there's so many companies that have obliterated their share structures. It's unbelievable. Some of these companies treat their stock like toilet paper. I can't figure it out. Canada Cobalt's been really good at maintaining a tight share structure. They've been doing financings at increasingly higher prices, and only 65 to 70 million shares outstanding right now. So they've held their share structure in a very reasonable way, and that's allowed them, obviously, one reason why they've done so well in the market. You don't have a stock with 300 or 400 million shares outstanding.
Yeah.
Make me feel better as an investor.
And they haven't had to. I mean, they had all their properties lined up before the Cobalt boom started. So that they didn't have to. There was one company that I couldn't believe it. They gave 30 million shares, almost half of their outstanding shares, to acquire a big land package. I mean, companies just throwing paper all over the place, and that's not conducive to building shareholder value.
John, you know what? There's lots of rumors going around about other stuff too being found, potentially nickel. I've heard diamonds. I mean, these are just the rumors that are being floated out there. But I think what we're looking for, myself and some friends, we're trying to understand this tech, the Re20Ox process. Can you sort of explain it to us in layman's terms, or give it a shot?
First, the history of this goes back to the 1980s. Actually, there was a research project carried out by the National Research Council. Dr. Ron Molnar was involved in that. He's a solvent extraction specialist, very renowned. And Frank Baza, the current Canada Cobalt CEO, was working with Dr. Molnar on this in the 1980s. So millions of dollars was invested. It was a research project done by Agnico Eagle and the National Research Council. It wasn't specifically about cobalt at that time. It was just trying to come up with some new answers, some new ways to achieve better recoveries of metals in the district. And of course, in this district, you just like anywhere in North America, when it comes to these cobalt situations, you've got very high arsenic levels, really high arsenic. So that can be problematic. So anyway, they advanced this process back in the 1980s, but it kind of got shelved right around 1990. The commodity sector, of course, went bust. And Agnico Eagle actually pulled out of the district. Silver prices plummeted, so the whole process was kind of put on the shelf. And then it was resurrected, in recent years by Frank Baza, looking ahead to the cobalt market that we're into now. And what's revolutionary about this, and I think it truly is revolutionary for the district, because Canada Cobalt has demonstrated, without a smelting process, without having to, use a smelter,
that's the key part.
They can actually produce a premium grade cobalt sulfate product through this leaching process. It's environmentally friendly, environmentally green. I think it'll be a big topic of discussion, by the way. There's a major conference coming up in the cobalt area in September, around the middle of September. So this is going to be talked about a lot at that conference. So it's a very efficient, very adaptable process. So think of it kind of like peeling away the layers of an onion, okay? So the first thing they target, the first layer they target is the arsenic. And part of the process in that first step actually involves something really simple: very high temperature water. And there's other aspects to it, but very high temperature water. They target the arsenic and they eliminate the arsenic, okay? So that's the first step in the process, is going after the arsenic. They've got a very effective way of doing that, and they've demonstrated, through SGS Lakefield, that even with arsenic as high as 50% in concentrate, they can remove 99% of that. People have to understand that is absolutely huge that they're able to do that. So that's step number one. Step number two in this process is precipitating the metal, going after the base metals and the cobalt, and then crystallizing cobalt sulfate. So that's step number 2 in the process. And then step number 3 is when they target the gold and the silver, and they actually are able to put a concentrate into a furnace, create a gold bar that then goes to a metal refinery. So these things are all tackled in stages. First it's the arsenic. They get rid of the arsenic, and then they precipitate the cobalt and the nickel predominantly, and crystallize a cobalt sulfate from an organic solution. And then the third step is when they tackle the gold and the silver. So you're actually able to recover all of these metals in a very efficient way, and ultimately you can do a number of things with Re2Ox. But what Canada Cobalt is doing right now, which is game changing, without a smelter, is they're creating a premium grade cobalt sulfate product. As far as I know, the first company in North America to do this, sourced from their own mine material. That's an important thing to think about as well, right? This comes straight. Yeah. This product originates, from the Castle mine, from underground.
And we have video of that too, don't we? Of actual drilling down there.
Let's take a look at. We'll talk more about that process. Let's take a look at the underground drilling. Here's what it looks like when they're drilling underground right now at the Castle mine. They're on the first level. And this is actually from an area that's not too far from the number 3 shaft, which was a glory hole that Agnico Eagle hit back in 1979 that allowed them to put the Castle mine into production. They hit a super rich, incredibly rich silver vein. And again, the cobalt veins, and I've seen these veins from my own eyes underground, and they are impressive. They're not, these veins never get terribly wide, but they go on for great distances, and and they can contain some tremendous grades. Grades by orders of magnitude greater than what you see in the Congo, for example. I mean, in the Congo, where that's an area that produces probably 65% of the world's cobalt. That is a potential problem, by the way. We all know about that, and there's a lot of issues there with the Congo. But those grades are about maybe 0.10%. You can get grades in the Northern Ontario Cobalt Camp that are certainly by orders of magnitude greater than that. The key is to efficiently target this stuff and find a way to mine it. And I think Canada Cobalt has done that.
So this is scalable, this technology? Some people
absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. I mean, Frank Baza says this is no different than making coffee. You can make as much of it as you want, right? So it's just a matter of you add more. As you make more, you add more ingredients. I mean, they're gonna. The potential of this, if you look at the potential numbers that are involved here, let's say they have a 300 ton per day operation at the Castle mine. That's not big. I mean, that's fairly modest, fairly small. It's a simple crush and grind process, which is what they have right now. They're crushing rock, grinding it, getting to a cobalt-rich concentrate. But if you're doing about 300 tons per day of that, you can turn that into about 10 to 30 tons of cobalt-rich concentrate, which then goes through the Re2Ox process, and you can, from there, probably produce, at least 10 tons of cobalt sulfate, and that's going at what, $100,000 Canadian per ton, north of that. Prices vary depending on grade and purity and all that sort of stuff, but do the math on that, and it's pretty astronomical. The other thing where Re2Ox, I think, could really be a game changer in the district is, it may allow Canada Cobalt to actually, at some point here, dominate the district in ways that maybe as Agnico Eagle did back in the 1980s. Other companies may try to tap into this possibly, and it's also a way to kind of clean up the tailings problem in the Northern Ontario Cobalt Camp. I mean, there's huge deposits of tailings in this district. You see them all over, you know, and that is something that Re2Ox can potentially target as well to clean up that problem. I've heard estimates that there's as much as 200 million tons of tailings in the district. Some of it dumped into lakes. That can be fixed as well. You know, some of it at surface. But so there's an opportunity there on the tailing side. An opportunity, obviously, immediately with, you know, what they're doing at the Castle mine. You know, all this has to be ramped up. But I mean, they've got the proof of concept and the first company to actually produce a cobalt sulfate product. Now they're looking also with Re2Ox at doing a nickel manganese cobalt formulation. You know,
wow.
So that taps into a whole new market. So this is a game changer in the district. Believe me, not everybody fully understands this right now.
Yeah.
But I think you know, Frank is looking at doing a big awareness campaign in September to kind of educate people more about this. And you know, I think then is when we really start to see things take off. And of course, there's results coming, you know, from underground drilling, from surface drilling, all this kind of stuff. So I think it's an exciting future for Canada Cobalt. And the first company, you know, a lot of people have been talking the talk. There's not that many that have actually nobody that's been walking the walk other than Canada Cobalt in terms of actually producing a cobalt product and accessing cobalt from underground, and the only company in Canada actually drilling underground targeting high grade cobalt. So it's a very unique story. It really is. I think a very modest market cap. I mean, you're looking at about, you know, 45 million on this thing, 40 to 45 million. I think the upside is huge.
Well, we're getting the 1 minute warning here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, John, for being
Fantastic.
your best at explaining the tech. I know I've been trying to figure it out myself, and you know, I think you did great. So people can find you at bullmarketrun.com, right?
Yeah, and we're gonna have a really active September, as I said off the top. I think we're looking at a big run potentially here in the venture. Yeah. I think, you know, the venture is a leading indicator. I think it's telling us that we're going to see some good things on the ground. We're going to see more discoveries, and so we're into a very strong market here, and we're going to be on the road a lot, up in the SK camp, back in Northern Ontario, down in the States. We've got some things we're following down there, elsewhere across Canada. So we're in for some exciting times. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely, yep. And I'm thinking this little jump here in the cannabis sector, some of these speculators might bring some profits over, might make things a little bit even more intense. We'll see. All right.
Well, John, it's always a pleasure, my good sir. Thank you for the time. I know there's going to be some people who are going to listen to that.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
They had no idea what it was.
We need more John. I hope, hopefully, John, you come on with us more. Love you, man.
Yeah, I'd love to. I appreciate the opportunity, and you guys are doing a great job, by the way. So congratulations on what you're doing, and you're reaching out and helping educate a lot of investors. So good work on that front, and would love the opportunity to come back at any time. Thank you very much.
All right, let's leave it there.
And we are back. That man has so much information locked inside that head, and I love hearing it.
Yeah, it was great to hear him explain the tech in layman's terms.
Yeah, and especially when it comes to CCW. I know we all know about Garibaldi. We're waiting for those assays to come back, and we're looking to what they have. When it comes to CCW, there's a little bit of a mystery between that Re2Ox and that technology. Can it be scaled up? All these different aspects. So it's really, really nice to be able to have that and to be able to look at your mic as it's being put back on.
Live show.
The live show. This is what you got to do. New batteries in the fly. Yeah. So I'll take it over here because I like talking. But we were also going to mention, now that we're on the note of mining, we've actually taken on a new client as well. Triumph Gold Corporation. Triumph Gold Corporation, you can find it on the TSXV-TIG. And if you go to FTMIG.com, that's our website. There's all the news releases throughout the day are aggregated and put there. You find there's a great archive of different companies and all their information. If you go to FTMIG.com and go to our featured page section, you'll see the featured pages for the companies that are our clients. On there, you can see the company information, their investor presentation, you'll see a stock chart and what their price is at, all these different aspects, their management and their bios. Really what it's meant is as their clients, as it's continuing on, you're starting to see more and more news releases there. So when you click on that company, you can go on for as little as you want and see the basics, or you can go on as much as you want and just start diving into all the information we've got compiled there, and that's the whole purpose. It's due diligence. It's an archive of all the information for them. Very interesting. Spoke to John over at Triumph. Lots of stuff going on there. Very, very excited to see where they go in September that we've been talking about. September could very well be a very good month for mining stocks. Let's see what TIG has to offer.
September is going to be huge.
Yep.
I'm going to attract that in, use the law of attraction. It's going to be big.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about Marican for 1 second.
You can hear again. You can speak again.
Hopefully. I was on the train coming in here, and I read an article that big alcohol is inspecting all these different facilities in Ontario and Canada and stuff like that, and I believe Marican is one of those facilities.
Yep.
I think I'm don't want to say for sure these people, but like the Anheuser-Busch.
Yep, you're speculating.
Companies, yeah,
absolutely. And if you're one of those big beer companies or PepsiCo or whoever it is, just a massive, massive company who understands what it means to be a massive, massive company. If you're looking for a cannabis company, you're looking for one that is undervalued, which I personally, this is opinion as a shareholder, I believe it's undervalued. That's just my opinion. But when you look at all the different aspects, you're seeing that they're global. Like I was saying earlier in this show, GMP, the large facility, cost per gram is very low. You're looking for those types of things, so why wouldn't they be a candidate for that? It'll be very interesting if they are.
Italy, Malta?
Italy, Malta, as well, absolutely, Switzerland. So there's a lot of Germany, a lot of different things. So that's why, again, when we take on clients, we want to make sure that we're looking for clients that we personally believe in. It does not necessarily mean that they're going to rock it or they're going to be the best companies. Those companies still need to perform. But from what we see and what we believe, we take on companies. That's why we're investors of those companies, because we believe in them.
How do you want to leave it off, Brandon?
I want to leave it off with thank you everyone for enjoying the show. We had some great guests. Thank you for everyone who came on as well. Next week we're going to be another action-packed week as well. Next Wednesday we'll be able to find us 1 to 3.
Traders coming back from vacation?
I'm sorry?
Traders coming back from vacation?
Should be.
Investors coming back?
As of next week, is it already past Labor Day?
I think so.
This summer's gone so quickly, but nonetheless, thank you for everyone for watching. We'll see you again soon.
Later.